the more you pull that lever and the harder you pull it, the more stuff just comes at you. And that I think that's true with anything you're trying to get more of. You got to let everybody know you're trying to get more of that, pretty simple.
And even the fact that you're able to, if somebody asks you, hey, what are you looking for? Don't say, I'm looking for a deal. That's the worst thing you could say. Because then you go into the category of, everybody else in the world. The fact you're able to verbalize something.
Yeah.
I can't tell me people call me, hey, it's not what you said, but look, I've got this and this and this. All right, that's great. That's the best thing could have happened.
Welcome to Burning the Ships podcast, and I'm your host, Jason Seward, and today I've got Nathan Janocka on the podcast, and Nathan is hailing from the great city of Richmond. Just recently got connected with Nathan. I had done a couple other podcasts where his name was brought up, and then coincidentally, I was just explaining this to Nathan offline. I reached out to him just kind of as a blind outreach as we were trying to connect with borrowers and stuff through our lending business. Started a correspondence with him and just did not connect the dots. So this is the same guy that other people had recommended that I get on the podcast. So that has led us to getting Nathan in here today. And Nathan, I appreciate you hopping on, giving us your time, and welcome to Burning the Ships.
I'm excited to be on here.
Yeah, man.
Excited to be here.
We're going to have a good conversation. Before we get into all that, I am going to turn it over to my man, JJ, for JJ's Joke of the Week. Take it away, JJ.
What kind of tree fits in your hand? A palm tree.
All right, buddy. Another great comedian in the making right there. So, but he has enjoyed that. I can't get him on. Like, I did a full episode with my daughter where I interviewed her. She's 14, so she can sit still and carry on a conversation. He lasts about 5 minutes before he's ready to run out of the room. So that's his way of contributing. But Nathan, like I said, I appreciate having you on here, man. And I'm excited. These are my favorite episodes where I really don't know your story. I don't know your backstory. I know you're doing big things and really a bunch of different lanes of real estate. So I'm excited to learn all that with my audience. And we'll get it kicked off with, I'll turn it over to you and let you steer the ship wherever you want to go, man.
I appreciate that. My story is kind of boring. I don't have any big highlights there. We kind of grew up in Harrisonburg, graduated from JMU, went to work for a developer up there. Worked in residential construction 2006, 2009, or somewhere in there. And at the time I was working, 2009, I was working for an out-of-state developer, and we were putting up a bunch of townhouses really fast and just crazy schedules. And I kind of figured, well, if I'm going to work, this is maybe coming into 2010, it was probably the worst time in the world to ever start a construction business. But I figured if I was going to be working so much for him, or for them rather, that I'll start my own thing. And did that for a couple of years, failed miserably. There's no getting around that. I did not have any systems, there. I had some construction experience, but I didn't know how to run it as a business. So I knew just enough how to get a project started, but, was always struggling with the cash and trying to figure that out. And so it failed miserably kind of one night, literally ran out of gas, on a project that I had worked on. We had money come in the next day, but it got down to that end. So long story made short, I called somebody else. We turned some of the projects I had into his company, and I kind of swore I'd never do it again and said, look, unless it's a guaranteed thing, never doing this thing again and working for yourself. Bad taste. And worked for him until 2013. 2013 rolls around. I'm living in Harrisonburg, and my best friend at the time was living in Richmond, and decided, just need a change of pace. And I always liked Richmond, so moved down here to Richmond. Went to work for a custom home builder. At the time, it was me, him, and a handful of other guys, and that company really grew. And I was able to grow with it, and I transitioned from just a project manager up until, as production manager for a little bit, and then became the land guy. And one of the things I really liked being a land guy is it got me out. we were constantly going to different projects, we tried different streets, different roads. So it really helped me learn the area and learn some of the values, because you were constantly putting it together with this was just the land, it was the custom home. We had some small developments. We were not the guys who did, 100 plus pads. We did some small ones, and it got me just enough, like, all right, figure out how this goes. And then my financial advisor at the time was like, hey, you're in construction. One of my clients is selling a rental house. You should take a look and buy it. And at the time, you could buy that house for $46,000. And so I bought that, thinking that the renter was there. And that was that way I'd kind of pitched my wife. Said, well, it comes with a renter. I don't have to do anything. Renter moves out 60 days later. And so,
game on.
Yeah, did that. And then a friend of mine, 2018, came to me and said, hey, we found it, or I saw a house on Facebook, and it was through Robert Haggerty at the time, and didn't know him. Now he's a really good friend of mine. And he said, hey, I've got this house at wholesale. I partnered with a buddy of mine. We flipped it, did okay. I think we both walked out of there with like $14,000. And it was not a house I would buy today. The numbers just didn't work. But it was successful, and let's do this again. And then, I started picking up a little bit of steam, and, I'm still a part of his business, and he's still a part of mine. He's one of the first guys I ever partnered with. But my little company grew. And then a couple years ago, I was working on, I think it was like 15 flips at the time, still trying to do a W-2 job. I had a big JV partnership with somebody else. And I finally came home. My wife's like, look, everybody in the world is mad at me. I don't know what else to say. I'm not holding up my ends on everything. And I'm getting a lot of, hey man, you're normally pretty good, but it's not great. And there's just not enough hours in the day. So told her, hey, I know, because we were trying to get the rental income up for the single families, and that was getting better, but it wasn't quite where we wanted it to be. And it's like, look, I think I can bridge it with the flip income and doing a few other things. And she never officially said yes. It was like, look, you're going to do this, so you might as well go do it. And that's all.
What year was that you left the W-2?
2022.
Same year I left mine. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, and I can definitely, I'd been in I was in the insurance field. I worked for Farm Bureau Insurance. So, for 17 years, and the last 6 of those years, I had always dabbled in real estate, but I had ramped up the real estate to where that was a full-time job alongside a very demanding full-time job. Right. So, those last few years, when you said that you weren't doing any of it great and people were starting to notice, I had that as well, where, at one point, I had nothing but success in that career. Nothing, everything had been good, partly through luck and partly I did a good job there. But my boss came to me at one point when at this point we had, I had 5-6 rehabs going on at a time, trying to manage all that and get things refinanced, because we were holding everything and do my job. And I was doing none of it great, none of it even average. And he came to me, he said, is everything okay? Like, you're not yourself. That was the light bulb moment for me. Like, oh crap, something's got to give here. And that's where ultimately it was about another year and a half in the makings, but I got to a point where I just cut the ties with that company and moved on. But that was I don't know about for you, it was more of a shot at my ego than anything else. Like, I had all this confidence, I can do it all. And I got to a point where the plate just filled up to a point where not only was I not doing it all, I was doing everything horribly. Like, it was not good, so I can resonate with that story. So.
No, that makes sense. I think when you're starting to build, you're so used to saying yes to everything. You have capacity, you have a little bit extra time. So you're like, yes. And then at some point, like, I said yes one too many times.
Right. Exactly. So let me, I want to come back to this point in time when you did finally cut loose of that and go all in. But I want to go back a little bit. You said, so you went to JMU. When did you graduate JMU?
2006.
Okay. One of my best friends graduated also in 2004 from JMU. He's actually a builder in Richmond. You may know Corey Campbell. I don't know if you know Corey.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
South River Custom Homes. He we went to high school together, a good friend of mine. But you said that the initial company you worked for, what were you doing for them? Project management? Like what was your role with them?
We were cranking out townhouses. That's what we did.
And you were just managing all the subs and everything to go with that, or okay,
Yep.
Gotcha. That's great experience, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Yep.
It gives you a lot of experience really fast.
Yep. So you kind of cut your teeth on like job schedules and things like that during those years, I would imagine. I mean,
you definitely do.
Yeah.
You definitely do. I may not have gotten as much construction experience, but the running of a project, yes, I got that. I felt very comfortable in that.
I've heard Brandon Lindsay describe it as like your best, the folks that can handle rehabs or new construction or any type of construction the best are the ones that are like air traffic controllers, right? They might not be good at swinging the hammer or what, but they can line up and keep things on schedule. And this guy's moving out, this guy's moving in, that kind of thing. So, and I would imagine your experience during those years helped you kind of hone in that skill.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the biggest thing, especially when you're learning, is listen to the subs and listen to what they want and what they need and what they want in order to keep the project rolling. What does your drywaller really need before he should really start?
Right.
What did you screw up in that? Hey, he couldn't start Monday. You had to go back and fix something so he can only start on Wednesday. You've got to really listen to those guys and see what they expect before the job can progress.
Gotcha. So you said around 2010, you started branching out and trying to do something on your own, and it failed. So what changed from that effort to now 2020 into 2022 when you leave this new career to give you the confidence that you weren't going to make those same mistakes?
I think we try to run it as a business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was the biggest thing. I mean, I was 25, 26 or wherever it was at the time, didn't know anything, just barely. I only had QuickBooks set up so that I could send out invoices and look a little more official. I wasn't using it for the accounting.
Yeah.
And all of that. I think one of the toughest times in our marriage was, I think it was end of 2020, going into 2021. We were trying to get ready for taxes. And my wife does an excellent job. She's still involved in the business, but now not as much, of keeping everything on the spreadsheets, tracking everything, where the cost was going, the checks and whatnot. But we realized, oh shoot, we have everything on like 15 different sheets. We aren't set up to give this over to an accountant to file our taxes. And then we were setting up for a bank line or a guidance line, and the banker emailed me for our financials and the balance sheets. Like, I had no idea what that was, and now it's my life.
Right.
It's my life. I think that's the biggest difference, and is someone taught me, hey, this is how you run the back end financials of your little LLC. And that still to this day, it still surprises me how much financial reporting and keeping track of your finances you need to do in order to be organized.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the folks that need that type of information, one of the biggest things in their underwriting is how quickly and organized you can provide that information. Right.
Absolutely.
Like I'm a lender now, and when like that is a big tell for me. And a lot of times we ask for a lot of information, not like unnecessary information. It's information we need, but part of getting that back to us timely, like that's a big deal. If you're unorganized and can't do that, well, that tells me, is that how you're going to run this project? Are we going to have trouble with you paying your payments and stuff like that? So it's a good indicator to me. We have some borrowers that we'll ask for their LLC docs. We'll ask for a copy of their driver's license, simple stuff. They just got to scan into us. And if it can be blip and get it right to us, okay, this person's got it a little more organized. If it takes a week, what else are you going to like drag your feet on, So,
it's going to take a couple weeks.
Right. That's right. So, yeah, no, that's good stuff. So it sounds like you kind of dialed that in. But you jump pretty quick. Like you mentioned, you had gotten to a point where you were managing like 15 projects at a time while doing your W-2 job. Well, what did that 0 to 15 projects look like? Like, how were you funding deals initially? How were you building out your, sourcing deals and finding and all the things that go into it to get to that scale? What did that time period look like?
I think cash wise, we did a lot of JVs.
Okay.
2018, 2019, 2020. I wasn't as familiar with private money lending or kind of your hard money lenders. I was just using JVs as much as I could. And then I ran into a guy that was doing some private money and I would use him and then use this. And so I think but it was a lot of joint ventures with the lenders. I have probably the second or third flip I ever did, still one of my good friends. I called and was like, hey man, I need like 155,000 in 10 days. And here's the project. And we'll just do I think it was like a 50-50 split or something like that. I was like, great, let's do it. Yeah. So I did a bunch more with him because, sometimes the lender's easier. Well, you want to go back to them. And as far as the work, I was working nights and weekends. I did some of the work on the projects. I'm not going to tell you I was swinging a hammer every single time, but I had a Rolodex full of really good subs and, from being in construction, and they were really helping me out on the flips. And then I had a couple of guys. The guy that's actually my project manager today was helping me on the weekends. And, we were putting in doorknobs, hanging a couple cabinets. Him so more than me. I'm not going to, I don't want to oversell that.
Right.
But he's really good. And then, that's how we got it done. And then when I made the jump, he was getting a little bit burnout with his job. Had some rough customer experiences. And when you run flips or new builds, you don't talk to as many customers.
Yeah.
So it worked out okay. And he came over to work for me, and yeah, he's been a great addition. No question about it.
What how are you finding deals early on? And we'll kind of, eventually get to how you're running things now. But early on, how are you sourcing deals?
I tried my own marketing. That failed. It did okay. I bought a lot off market through realtors where they would have pocket listings.
Yep.
And, the big believer in going to the real estate networking groups bought a lot from that. And then the more you buy, the more inertia, the more steam you pick up. And then, hey, Nathan's buying a bunch, call him, he'll close.
Yep.
And you don't need 100 different sources. You need like 5, maybe not even that. Meaning, hey, I got a couple realtors, I got a couple wholesalers. Hey, this lender had a deal go bad, so he called me about buying it from him. And then, my banker, their mom or their aunt passed away and they need rid of a house. And it just kind of comes through. Bought a few on the trustee steps, not a ton. That was, you can definitely do it, but man, it's harder now than it used to be. Years ago, it was a decent way to pick up deals.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we built the bulk of our portfolio. I say I've got a business partner, but we built it like 2018 through early 2022. And it was, I'd say 3/4 of what we bought were from 2 or 3 wholesalers. And that was it. And the reason, these were smaller wholesalers that were kind of like, we caught them as they were getting started, and they had one really good skill set, and that is finding good deals and negotiating good prices. And we were they didn't have a buyer's list yet, and we just happened to connect with them, and we proved to them that we could close. So we got everything. We got everything they were bringing to us, and even hindsight, I don't know if I would have done it this way if I had to do over, but I think it proved to be the right decision. I don't know. We were buying kind of skinny deals sometimes just to close, just to prove to that wholesaler we're not going to leave them hanging. And that, I think, worked out for us long term. But it goes to your point. We didn't need to connect with 100 different wholesalers. We were making those connections. I still get them to this day. I get an email box flooded with opportunities, but we had 2 or 3. They found a deal. It's coming to us first before they take it to anybody else. And that's all we needed,
Exactly right. There's a trust too, because you know that they're treating the seller right on the other side. There's not
Yep.
going to be anything weird, or they're going to try to retrade 2 days before the closing table and whatnot. And there's a lot to that. And yeah, I think the best guy I ever bought from, I think I bought 80 houses from him, and he's just awesome.
Yeah.
You know, he's just awesome. And to your point, yeah, you probably do buy a few that you maybe shouldn't have. You know,
Right.
2021, the market was appreciating, so you went into it thinking, he's $300,000 house. When you exited, it was 315. So it erased a lot of mistakes. I'm not going to.
Exactly right.
It erased a lot of mistakes.
Yep, exactly right. Not so much now though. Well, in today's market, but so you kind of started building momentum, through, like you said, realtors, a few wholesalers, and at some point, like when you left your job, you got 15 projects going on at a time, and then it was like game on, all in. What did you have like an outline of a plan or a vision or a goal that you were going to go from 15 to X amount? Or was it just, I'm putting all my resources into this and going as big as I can? Did you have anything structured from that standpoint?
You know, the way we've kind of traditionally funded our deals is the lender brings the purchase price and I bring the rehab.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way, but
Yeah.
it's just how we've done it.
Right.
And that my cash has been the limiting factor as far as how big we've grown. Now, I'm not saying I haven't pushed that and gotten really close to, not being in a good spot, but that's been the limiting factor. But to answer your question, we absolutely put fuel on that fire. We're going to go as fast and as hard as we can. The market was good. So, hey, when the market's good, let's sell.
Yeah.
Now it's definitely slowing down a little bit. So I'm kind of ratcheting back. I was looking at my monthly profit summaries. June was good. July was good. August was okay. September, no, it sucked. October, it sucked because a lot of the deals I had bought, we're seeing a correction of 5 to 10% plus more days on market. So it's hurting, and I need to get out of those, restructure into what the market is today, and then we'll be fine going into next year.
Yeah. And it's funny how no matter what lane you're in, everybody's feeling some type of impact. So like as a lender, we're seeing more loans go into extension, which is fine. I mean, we plan for that. The borrower plans for it strictly because it's sitting on the market longer. Right. And we got our first year and a half. I don't know. We might've had 2 loans go into extension. Our average loan term, we were doing 6-month loans, but our average was a 5-month payoff, right? And now just about everyone that is a fix and flip, because we lend to a lot of burr investors too, so they're refinancing us out on time. But the ones that are trying to sell it, they're dragging on, going 7-8 months now, just because of that time on market. But it's okay. Like there's you just adjust, and on both sides, the borrowers and the folks flipping are having to adjust. We're having to adjust, and it's just the way it is. So, as you scaled, you mentioned you did some buy and hold as well. Did you have a formula you use? I know we deal with a lot of people, and we kind of did it ourselves, where we, every 5 we buy, we hold, 4 and flip 1, or hold 3 and flip 2. Do you have anything like that you try to stick to, or is it just whatever makes sense at the time?
There was a couple, over time, it has morphed into, there's a couple areas that I want rentals at.
Okay.
And then the reason why is because the price point allows me to burr or get really close to burring it out. So I don't know if it's a specific, hey, we'll do 4 or 5 and then buy 1. I think now at this stage, it's, and there's no secret to it. If I can buy a house in the low 100 range, which is getting really hard to do,
yep,
depending on where you're at, then that's probably going to be a rental. Unless there's like a great upside, we bought really well and there's a bunch of cash, which doesn't happen. But hey, if I buy it for somewhere in the low 100s, we put 30, 40, 50 into it, it's worth 200, 225, whatever it is. And then, but a rent's about 1,500, 1,600 in a couple of specific zip codes we like, then we're going to keep that every time.
Yeah. And there's tax advantages to holding, a certain amount as well.
Part of it. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and we, you know, and I can just relate through, and that's why I keep sharing examples of ourselves. But like we, you know, for the years that we were working our W-2, we were not real estate professionals, so we couldn't offset that income, right? But now we can. So the money the active income we're making through the lending business, it's almost beneficial to us to buy rentals at a break even almost just to get that tax depreciation offset. So we're kind of just as recent as this year, kind of reformulating and getting back into buying again and holding for that reason, because we know it's going to be an issue we have to address in the years to come from a tax standpoint. So, yeah.
You said that 4 years ago, somebody would look at you like you had five eyes or something. Like that was
Right.
never a statement until the big beautiful bill came back. And which really, cost segregation has been around for a while.
Yeah.
Percentages have kind of moved, sure, but it hasn't been a new phenomenon. But now everybody's like, "Whoa, yeah, it's a real thing." You know?
Well, I mean, and just through educating ourselves, I mean, I'm investing in bigger syndications for the tax benefit as well. Right. So, I mean, I'm getting a decent preferred return. I'm getting the potential upside of equity, but I'm getting that tax depreciation share as well. So, it's just, you know, the more you do, the more your mind is open and your eyes are open to all these other strategies. And it's fun. Like, I don't ever want to stop learning this stuff, you know? So,
Yeah.
It's
the
so
same thing to do it, you know?
So you've had, I mean, you mentioned, God, 2022. So we're 3 years separated from you leaving your W-2. And at that point you left, you were doing about 15 flips. You've scaled this tremendously since then. So
Yeah.
do you want to talk about, I mean, I'm not expecting you to share actual numbers. I know you're doing a lot of big things, but what happened to allow for that scale? Has this been a reactive process where as things get bigger, you're building teams accordingly, or did you build teams ahead of the evolution of growth? I mean, like, how have you handled all this and managed it?
The way that I'm going to describe it is not the way that I probably should have done it, but
Okay.
you know, we grew like 100% every year. We went from 10 a year to 20, then it was 40, and it was 80, and you know, I think now I don't want to do any more flips. Like I think we'll do 85 or something. Like that's it. I don't want a bigger team. I want exactly what I have right now. I need one or two seats to fill one or two seats, but I don't anticipate the flip numbers growing as much as they have. But to your point, this was kind of 2021, 2022, 2023. So the market was appreciating, and I started to learn, hey, if you get bogged in these big permitted additions, you know, with 200,000 out of the rehab, you're going to miss out on a lot of deals. So, and also my style was, look, I like just a little brick rancher or a tri-level. I'd hate to say it, but I like tri-levels. And I know they're not the most sexy thing in the world, but I can go to Lowe's and buy everything I need at Lowe's tomorrow and bring it into this house. Yes, they sell for a little bit less than ranchers, so you need to know that going in, but comp it appropriately. They're tough. You can't kill them. You know, the floor system's all 2x10, every single one. And I can tell you that at the time, maybe not today, but you couldn't put more than $75,000 into a trial level. Just can't do it. Like, you just can't do it. You know, you can do everything. So, hey, we'll buy this at so I could evaluate deals very quickly into, hey, I just need this type of spread. Don't necessarily need to look at it. I mean, sure, so many pictures, I know it exists, but this is what we're going to do. So we very quickly got out of big rehabs and into more whatever people call as cosmetic. I define it as anything between 30 and 90,000 as cosmetic. You know, we're not adding bedroom bathrooms. We may turn the half bath in the primary into a full bath, but you know, this is what we do. This is our package, and that's it. You know, that's it.
And you have a
scale.
With that scale, I would imagine you have a pretty cookie cutter package as far as like flooring, paint schemes, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty even across the board. You're doing, God, that's 85. You're doing 5 to 7 deals a month, right?
Yeah, we buy a house and sell a house in the same week.
Okay. What from like an org chart standpoint, what does your operations look like at that scale? I mean, I know you're the head of it, but like you obviously have teams under you. So what does your team look like to manage that level of just transactions?
We have the guy I was talking to you about earlier. He's kind of morphed into a production manager, so to speak, and then he oversees another project manager. We've learned that between him and that project manager, they can run 8 or 9 projects at a time, depending on scope and place and whatnot. But once it gets about above 10, we track the closing date versus the list date, and it starts getting above 60 days. Most of our rehabs are 60 days. And then we have 2 real key contractors, GCs, that we work with. They're a little bit more expensive because, hey, you're subbing things out, but they rocket through it. And that's how we get the job done. And there's a couple people like we have 2 painters that they are their own entities, but they work for us. You know, electrician, we send him a schedule every single Monday and say, hey, go there, go there, go there. So really it's from an org chart on what goes out from Track Properties every week. You know, only a couple people that are quote unquote on staff, but you know, there's a couple of subcontractors that just really work for us individually. And we're very protective of them, make sure we pay them on time. And because a lot of them are owner operators, you can't pay those guys on net 30. It doesn't exist.
Right.
You know, it doesn't exist.
So from an acquisition standpoint, do you have any sales team, or is it just you out there hunting for deals still?
Just me. And that's what kept the company from growing a lot, because I don't want to farm that out. I just want it to be me. Now, that doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. I absolutely do. But if I had a sales guy or another sales guy, the company would grow even more. But I think I want to stay with where we have a couple of core people, and we're really good at what we do, and we do this thing, and we do it in Central Virginia. And that's all I want. I don't want to be on a podcast and say I flip 200 homes every year.
Yeah,
that scares the hell out of me. You know,
yes, not well. Flipping 85 a year scares the hell out of me. So there's levels. So that I'm leading somewhere with this. So you're the primary acquisitions person within your organization, right? So your day to day is just trying to find the next deals, right? So is there any point, I know you said you kind of want you want to slow down on the flipping or maybe just stay where you're at, but can you envision a point where you, Nathan, can disappear for 3 months and everything keeps rolling? Is that are you there yet, or are you trying to get to that point at any point?
We don't have. I would really like to get the back end part of the company in a better position than what it is today. We need we have a VA and another person that helps us with our bookkeeping. That is the weak point of the business, is the actual operations, and we need a stronger office manager than what we have. That's the thing that's really keeping me from disappearing for a couple of months. Yeah, my construction side is really good. I'd stack us up against anybody out there. You know, my guys are really good.
Right.
But the back end part of the business is what needs the most help. And I think we're going to start getting out of flip some more into more of the infill lot building. We started doing that here lately. I don't know if I'm going to, you read a bunch of books and everybody says you should do this. I don't know. I just kind of like doing it. That's the problem. I still want to be in the business and work in the business. There will be a day I transition out, but I don't want to hire that role to replace me just yet. I like what I'm doing too much.
Yeah. No, that's a good answer. And especially if you can, you know, everybody talks about work-life balance. I mean, that we can have a conversation on that if you want, but like, I enjoy what I do, right? I enjoy everything I do. Occasionally I have a day where I'm like, geez, man, this sucks, you know, but
yeah.
Right. For the most part, I get excited and I think about what I'm going to do the following week on the weekend. Like, it's in my brain. I'm excited about it. So that is my life, and my family is also my life, and all those things can live harmoniously together. You know, it's okay to do that, but I I can't. I was talking to, I did another interview yesterday. We had the same conversation, but I'm, I'm 44. When I was working my corporate career, I always thought of the excitement of retirement, right? I always thought of like that destination of, well, I'll get there eventually. I can't wait till I can retire and travel the world and hunt and fish and do all these things I want to do. Now, I it doesn't even register to me. Like I'm able to do all those things and run a business and be successful. And I think I just want to do it the way I do it until the day I die. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say, So maybe not that long, but um, the the challenge is, and I want to get your perspective on this because one day I am going to want to just take a breath or maybe channel all this energy into something different, right? So I do often think about like, how can I build this into something that can seamlessly be turned over to an executive or something like that. Do you think that way now, or is that so far off in your mind you really haven't started planning it?
It's come up, it's come up, and I think I really this Saturday, I'll tell you exactly what I do. I go work out Saturday morning. I'm gonna go around check on the jobs because I can't get to them as much during the week. That is my perfect Saturday. Absolutely love it. And I'll come home, don't be wrong, and go hang out with wife, whatnot. But I love that because this my painter's my friend. Like I don't want to go see my buddies. But I do recognize that I need to start giving away certain tasks and start giving away responsibility and some of the acquisition side of it, and it absolutely needs to happen. I think it absolutely needs to, and that'll, when the business is at the point where I feel a little bit more secure about the operations and how we're handling jobs, even down to just handling invoices and handling our tax reporting and whatnot. Once it's there, then I'm going to, right now, it's not something I feel proud to give away to somebody. Like it's a really good thing and we're making money. It's all good, but I would not want to give somebody this business this second. But I want to get it there to where I could give somebody and say, hey, this is all kind of set up. You just got to step in and run it.
Yeah, it's like an old work truck. Like it's comfortable for you. You know how to work it. It feels good, but you wouldn't want to hand that to the next person that has no idea how to deal with that old work truck. So yeah, I completely can relate to that. So so you talk about y'all are going to get more or have gotten more into the infill construction. That's a different animal, different game. You're doing it from the ground up. But at the end of the day, like when you're approaching those types of opportunities, you're looking for land, you're looking for lots. Kind of back to, it sounds like what the role you played for that other builder for a while, right? Because weren't you? Yeah. So have you changed anything, or do you plan to change anything as far as your marketing goes, as far as trying to source those types of deals over the tribe levels and the ranchers and stuff when it comes to flipping?
I think the biggest thing, the one thing I learned, and you're probably the same way, is if you want something, you need to tell everybody Yeah. I know if I want lots, I'm going to start telling. I've started telling everybody that I know that I meet, hey, what do you want? Like I want building lots. I want it in this area, this area, this area. Even if you're not going to tell everybody that, hey, I want it in just one area of Richmond. Keep telling me calls I get like, hey, it's not in that area, but what about this area? Yeah, let's go look at it. I think you tell everybody what you want, and then it happens. And then we have started doing some list building and some outbound marketing, which has been successful. We partner with somebody else who does a lot more cold calling and is really good at it. And I think that marketing, so I think one, telling everybody we know, there'll be an inertia effect in another year or two, but it's okay to mark. It's weird if you call somebody about their primary home, and not weird, it's a horrible thing to say because it's half the business, half the industry is related on that. It's a tougher phone call to make to someone who's living in the house that, hey, you thought about moving and this, that, and the other. And half the time when I was doing it, I was like, well, I'd love to sell, but don't know where I'm going to go. Then you have to find a rental, but vacant land's easy. And vacant land, it is what it is. And grandma may have given it to you, sure, but at some point, that's either you want to build it or somebody else is going to build on it.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. We've built a couple houses with, so we have in the Hampton Roads market, we have one contractor, kind of like you were talking about, that does everything for us, right? But also he's also a custom home builder and stuff. So we partnered with him on a couple new builds in the last few years, just spec homes. We sold them, everything went good, but it got like I got a little dose of that. Like it was a different type. It was more exciting. Like every house we did, we had pre-sold before we even broke dirt, so that was nice. But it was a different animal. And as soon as we did those and just told a few people we were kind of getting into that, to your point, through inertia or whatever you want to call it, opportunities started coming, right? Yeah. And that, you ought to check with Jason and Bill. They're building some houses, or check, and that, I think there's a lot to be said about that, because so many people, I was guilty of it for years when I was starting out in real estate. I didn't tell anybody what I did. I was silent. I just stayed quiet about it. I didn't want to go to networking events, mainly because I didn't want to create a conflict with my main job, right? Because I have, right. But once I left that job, I flipped the switch. I said, I'm going everywhere. I'm gonna get active on, because I had never been active on social media. Started doing that. Still uncomfortable with it, but I do it. But the more you pull that lever and the harder you pull it, the more stuff just comes at you. And that, I think that's true with anything you're trying to get more of. You got to let everybody know you're trying to get more of that, pretty simple.
And even the fact that you're able to, if somebody asks you, hey, what are you looking for? Don't say, I'm looking for a deal. That's the worst thing you could say. Because then you go into the category of, everybody else in the world. The fact you're able to verbalize something.
Yeah.
I can't tell me people call me, hey, it's not what you said, but look, I've got this and this and this. All right, that's great. That's the best thing could have happened.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm sure you get way more of this than we do, but the calls from folks in our network that have no ties to real estate, no understanding of it, but Uncle Jesse just passed away and they don't know what to do with this house. Jason, can you help us? And that turns into us helping them by buying the house, them getting, cash out of it, and us getting another property, right? And that's just by them maybe seeing a post I made, or somebody they know told them that everybody thinks I'm a real estate agent. So they call me and I'm like, no, it's not exactly what I do, but really what you pick, right. We pick up a lot of properties that way. So I want to now, so like on the disposition end of it, you're doing such a high volume. Do you have, and you're mostly in one market, or, a pretty tight market. Do you have a realtor on your team? Are you a realtor? Is your wife, or do you have realtors that you kind of spread the love across? Like, how do you work that as far as disposing of your properties?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have a license, but I used to list some on flips and gave it away. I learned the best referral source is an agent. The only person who talks to more sellers other than wholesalers are realtors. So I identified a couple of realtors early on and I'd call them up, say, look, I really want a relationship with you. I like what you're doing. And as a sign of good faith, I'm going to give you a house to list tomorrow. It's ready to go. Send pictures over there. And that really helped pick up steam because, hey, I wasn't calling looking for deals. No, I couldn't give you a house. And this next fact may be controversial, but we pay full 6%. And there's no, I don't negotiate it now. Don't hit me with a transaction fee, right. But pay full 6%. And when realtors, let's be clear, when realtors look at investors, hey, they got two realtors going to send to, hey, this guy only pays 2% or 2.5%, but Nathan pays full 6%. Yeah, you're getting that call. Then there's no getting around it.
Yeah.
Yep. So very early on, the realtor brought it. We refer back to them, and then anything loose, I just would target a couple agents that I thought were really good, that knew what they were doing. Not like the ones on the billboard. That's probably not the person you call. I kind of figure, hey, this guy or girl's doing 30 to 50 houses a year. I see one or two listings that looks like they may have should have been going to an investor, and I just target them and call up, give them a house, and all of a sudden you're your name gets out in the brokerage, and then John Smith calls you and Mary Sue calls you because you gave one house to somebody. You're ready. The house looked good, and you had a good name. So that's how it happened. But yeah, I gave up listing a long time ago. I suck at it.
And those realtors, they if they are wise in how they handle themselves, they're gonna want to do everything they can to continue earning your business, right? It's both ways. Like you're trying to, you're trying to connect with a realtor that's going to sell that property. That's and they're gonna do the most effective and efficient marketing they can to get that done. They're trying to connect with people that are going to give them volume so they can do more of those transactions. So it's a win-win. We do the same thing. We have really 3 realtors in 3 different markets that we exclusively deal with, and there are people that we just have one here in Smithfield. It was a wholesale deal. We didn't have to do anything. I think we cleaned it, and that was about it. But it came to us while me and my partner were out of town on vacation. We couldn't do anything. We're like, all right, call the realtor. And I won't bore you with the details, but she took full control of everything. Like went in there. We were able to get it under contract. We're able to do everything we needed while we were out of town for 2 weeks. She got it clean, coordinated everything. We never went in the house. And it was, and then she had it listed by the time we got back home, sold it, made a good pluck. And that, like, you think I'm ever going to deal with a different realtor as long as she's around?
Yeah.
Right. So, but no, that's good stuff. So Nathan, I will start wrapping things up now. I've kind of gone all over the place, but you mentioned kind of what you're focused on now, the new construction, the land and whatnot. How do you operate from a goal and a vision standpoint? Do you map things out 12 months, 5 years, 10 years, or do you just kind of have I'm going to roll with wherever the tide or the wind takes me and I'm going to key in on that? Like, what's your perspective around goals and visions?
You absolutely need to have the goals because, whatever gets measured gets done. So,
yep.
I think we, there for the past couple of years, it has been, let's just keep increasing the count, keep the rentals, keep, just increasing the counts. Now that the company is becoming a little bit more stabilized in that, we have a couple people there, or there's, we can be a little bit more selective on deals. I think I want to become about 60% flip, 40% new build. I do not want to be a builder that goes into a subdivision, does a takedown schedule, 1 lot per quarter. The downside of being an infill lot builder is there's only so many infill lots. Let's be clear. You're only going to do so many. And I think that's going to be the limiting factor as far as how many new construction we'll do. We have, a couple, we want to probably do, we probably about 10, 15 and kind of in production or in permit right now. So I think maybe add a few more on for that and then kind of pull the flips back a little bit. And I think that's going to naturally do it just because of the market. The market's a little softer on flips this second. And then, kind of, I think you were talking, or you mentioned one of the other podcasts is the rentals that we had bought 6, 7, 8 years ago are started to get a little bit of equity onto them. So we're going to sell those off and then 1031 into something a little bit larger.
Yeah.
We have one coming up. They're going to move out, hopefully, November 3rd. And that one's going to go, we're going to sell that and hopefully find something a little bit larger to go into. The cash flow is a little bit better. So I think long-term rentals, your single-family home rentals, great long-term appreciation, tough cash flow. I want to kind of flip that a little bit to where maybe the asset they're going into is a little bit stronger on the cash flow side of it.
Yeah.
And a little bit more on the depreciation, which means a higher price point that they're going into. So I think for the active income, it's probably scale back a little bit on flips, focus more on new builds. We have a couple opportunities where it's more than one house on a lot through attached housing or through up and down stuff. So I think that'll be a bigger part of it. but I don't want to lose. I don't want the company to get too big to where I kind of can't wrap my hands around it.
Yeah.
We need to kind of fine tune a couple of people or a couple of seats, bought an office finally, and get that kind of up and running. And, I don't want this to be a 20-person company. It scares the heck out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in a bigger national mastermind legacy family, and at a recent event, like it was the theme of the event is basically bigger is not better, right? And I'm like we in that particular room, I'm a very small fish. I mean, there's some heavy hitters owning 20,000 units across the country of apartments and storage and all this stuff, and all of them, like every single one of them, their main hurdle right now is trying to figure out how to scale back. Like they want to go backwards, like because it's not worth all the just the adversity and stress and headache and all the. I mean, the theme of the whole event was everybody's getting kicked in the nuts, right? And like how can we get kicked in the nuts less? Well, you scale it back. You figure out, like, you find that sweet spot, and it's hard because once you kind of start, and I know you see this, but once you kind of start figuring things out, you get this confidence of, and these, like, I can go bigger, man. Where can I go with this thing? And next thing you know, you look up and it's gone beyond what you can even control. And I think that's where you're alluding to. You don't want to get to that point where it's out of control. And now, yeah, it's making money. Yeah, it looks great on paper. It sounds good on podcasts, but you are pulling your hair out because you've lost control over it. So I think it's very wise that before that even happens, you're in the right mental space of, like, I don't want that to happen, right? And you're trying to make steps to prevent it from that. And we've seen that in our own business, the lending business this year. It's grown so much faster than what we had anticipated, what we set our goals for and all that, which is great. But now it's like, all right, let's hit the brakes. And we have slammed on brakes as far as like raising capital and stuff like that. But if we don't do that, I mean, this thing will spiral out of control. We can't not let it get out of control, So I definitely agree with everything you were saying there. So Nathan, as we wrap things up, I'm curious. I'm gonna ask you, because you're a very unassuming personality. You're very calm, collected. You're doing bigger things than what you're even leading on. But I because knowing what you've got going on and what you've built and over your career, I would imagine you've got some good wisdom and some good pieces of advice for folks starting out. So speak to the individual who, they might be in a W-2 job, they might be thinking about or already in real estate, but at a very small scale, own a few rentals, getting in their first couple flips. Give 2 or 3 pieces of advice that they can kind of put into their foundation and implement going forward.
I think the best thing I ever did early on is I used to have an Excel sheet, and I tracked every house that someone ever sent to me. And every wholesaler, everyone's calling me and say, hey, there's an investor, this is house that's going to go in the investor route. I used to track it. And that helped because when I came into the industry, I had a good construction background, but I didn't really know what do these houses even sell for? I mean, everybody's got this 70% rule, but do people actually buy at 70% in minus repairs? And some do, some don't. Depends on your what you're trying to do. And it helped me build kind of a background on the industry, even to the point where, there was a house down Edgemore that I saw, went and looked at. I was like, I don't understand how you could sell this for $300,000 as a 3-1. I was coming from a custom home background. Like, this needs to be a grandiose house, this, that, and the other, and how does it work? And then I went back and looked at it and saw what the investor did. It's like, holy smokes, that was a really good idea. 2 weeks later, looked at one on Griffin, same floor plan. Richmond's really good because we get a lot of the same house floor plan in the same area. I walked in, took a look at it, walked out, told the wholesaler, absolutely, I'll take it right now. Because I knew and that background helped me know exactly what I was looking at the time. So it wasn't necessarily luck. It was kind of that whole thing of opportunity and experience experience and know-how kind of meets opportunity, because I had figured out, all right, I didn't know what to do with this, but I tracked it and I figured out what somebody else did. So it's just simple, stupid. Follow what that guy did.
Did somebody give you that advice? Like, where or was that intuitive to you to track that? Because I mean, I track a lot of things, but I didn't track it at that level. So what that was just something you did intuitively?
Yeah, I just did it just out of curiosity.
I think that's great advice. Yeah.
Just because if you're coming to in the industry and you have no background, you need to build it.
Yes.
You need to kind of build the experience, so then you can, when you see a house, you may not know exactly what to do, but you've watched somebody else do it because you were there.
Yeah.
And that's the other side. You gotta go look at the house. You gotta go be present. Even if I used to go to a lot of houses that I didn't buy, and also helped me build up a knowledge of other investors in the area, because I just kind of hear what they said, hear what they did, and sometimes people would say, like, I shouldn't have bought that house for whatever it was. All right, well, it's fine. That happens. That's probably the best thing I did.
Yeah, I like that. Have you I know this could be another hour topic, but I'm going to ask you real briefly. Have you implemented AI in any way into your business, and do you intend to do so?
We started doing it because on the task that we find ourselves doing every single time, we buy a house and the contract, it goes onto a sheet where we track it. All right, we should upload that. We're trying to figure out if we upload that to AI and it autofills it into the sheet. It's just the tasks that we're repeating, we're doing it. There's way more things it can do that I just haven't figured out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I am way behind. Fortunately, we've got we have folks that handle marketing and stuff for us that are on top of it, so they're doing things that are over my head for us. But it blows me away. Just what little bit I play with in Chat GPT, I'm blown away by. And I know nothing about it, so it's scary. But the wheel was scary at one point to human beings. So it's like the internet was scary.
The wheel was scary.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but there's a clip I've seen several times, but it's like Bryant Gumbel and there's a couple other TV reporters, but it was like on the Today Show in the 90s talking about the internet. Right?
Yes.
And they were joking about it. Like, oh yeah, you're going to be able to talk to somebody and blah, blah, blah. And they were laughing as if it was a joke. Well, that's exactly where AI is right now. And it's not a joke anymore. Like, it's actually happening. So it's just part of our evolution, and again, like, seriously, when at some point a caveman made something round that rolled and everybody probably scoffed at it, and then all of a sudden that's what gets us around now. So, but Nathan, man, I appreciate it. I think there's a lot to take away here. I feel like I could, I'm trying to be respectful of your time and the listeners' time. I don't want to turn into a Joe Rogan podcast, but you've got, a quick couple things I want to summarize. Like, yes, you've been tied to real estate for a number of years, since college, really, in one way or another, but you've really ramped it up 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And from there to now, like, now you're flipping. I mean, you could crank it up and essentially be flipping 100 houses a year. So, like, it can happen fast with the right systems, the right plan, the right experience. It's not like you jumped in 2022 and just started doing it. You've been building that over time. But I think it's a good lesson for folks that, whether it's flipping houses, buy and hold, new construction, lending, whatever you want to get into, just figure out the resources it's going to take to get into it, and then implement a plan and realize, like, you failed. 15 years ago, you failed. It's your first attempt, right? And that almost scared you from ever trying again, but eventually you got back into it and look at what's happened. So I think that's a good lesson for folks. Nathan, if folks, I mean, you're in around the Central Virginia area, but you mentioned earlier about just letting people know exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for land, you're looking for lots, and obviously houses, but what general area? Just all of Central Virginia, or is there anything specific you want to share with folks on that?
It's really Central Virginia, infill lots.
Okay.
We got a couple of good floor plans. We want to crank them out. And absolutely, we're always looking for good flips. There's a couple pockets that we really, really like them in. But
Got it. All right. And I'll put, if you're good with it, I'll link all your stuff down in the show notes. So if anybody has anything, they can just message you on Facebook or whatever there. And I'm curious, just questions popping in my head. Are you doing any build to rent? Are you building any to hold?
we have started to look at that. I think that is slowly becoming I think if we do this podcast in a year, I'll probably tell you we did 5 of them.
Okay.
I guess.
I like that. I've been, my wheels have been spinning recently. I've got to stop chasing so many rabbits, but that's another one that just the economics of it makes sense for me now, especially because I mentioned earlier, we're trying to hold as much as we can, for the tax, benefit. So that might be something we explore, but anyway, I'm thinking about it as I'm wrapping this podcast up. So, but Nathan, I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate your time. I know you're doing a little social gathering tomorrow night. This will be coming out after that, but wish I could join you guys for that. But hopefully we can meet up for lunch or coffee or a drink sometime soon and get to know each other a little bit more.
That'd be great, man.
All right, Nathan. Thanks a lot, man. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Burning the Ships. I want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, 608B Capital, helping real estate investors secure fast, reliable funding to fuel their boldest moves. If you're ready to take your investing to the next level, visit 608bcapital.com to learn more. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps us reach more people who are ready to burn the ships and commit fully to their goals. And don't forget to share the episode with someone who needs that extra push to take bold action. I'll leave you with this. Burning the ships isn't just about removing the option to retreat. It's about unlocking the courage to charge forward. No matter the odds, the past is behind you and the future is yours to conquer. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on Burning the Ships.